Have you seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off? Remember that one scene? Ferris is not in class. The teacher's sitting there. He has glasses on, and he goes, Bueller, Bueller. He was in the middle of teaching a lesson. Do you remember what the lesson was about? A lot of you may not remember what the lesson was about, but I am a Ferris Bueller's Day Off geek, and I know exactly what he was talking about. He was talking about the Smock-Haley Tariff Act of 1930. Listen, it's a very geeky subject. The 71st Congress enacted this tariff act after the Great Crash in 1929, which started the Great Depression. They did this in an effort to generate more revenue and pull the country out of depression. It failed horribly, okay? And that's what they were talking about during Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It was very boring. It was writing on the chalkboard. But we can take away a lesson from that because it triggered a global trade war, led to other countries enacting their own tariffs. It decreased the amount of trade that was going on around the world. It was just an economic disaster. There was job losses, economic heartaches. There was a lot going on, and there's a lesson to be learned to a tariff that was enacted almost a century ago that almost kind of sheds light on the type of prep that you should be doing today. So let me start off by saying happy Carnival, Mardi Gras today. And who thought we would start Carnival off with a little bit of tariff action? They were enacted today at midnight. 25% tariffs on Canada, 25% tariffs on Mexico, 10% slice carve out when it comes to energy that comes in from Canada. And we bumped up the tariffs on China to 20%. What does that mean? That means that the tax on goods starts very soon. Remember we talked about over a month ago, it can happen in very soon. There are 328 ports of entry in the United States. Some of the stuff that you may have a part of your prep, some of the stuff that you may have a part of your EDC are about to get taxed upon arrival at one of those ports of entry. Imagine that you are a company that imports Canadian steel or Canadian aluminum or whatever you need it for your knives. As soon as that truck, train, boat, aircraft, whatever lands and the government assesses what's being brought in, a tariff is slapped on. That's paid for by the company. And then the company has a couple of choices. They can either A, eat the cost, or B, increase prices. That's why I think that when it comes to your SHTF and your prep stuff, a decision has to be made. If the stuff that's coming in from our largest trading partners, the ones that we do the most business with, literally Mexico, Canada, China, if something that you need is coming from one of those countries, then you may need to pump your brakes and decide, is it really worth it to pay that additional tax? That could also include automobiles. Just so much stuff can happen for that. And Canada has already imposed a tariff themselves. They are also thinking about doing an export tariff, which is something just completely different, meaning that when you get to the port of entry with your good, and you're that same American company with that aluminum, when it gets to the Canadian border, before you go into the U.S., they're thinking about taxing you in Canada. And then when you cross the border, taxing you again because the Americans will tax you. So that could increase the cost of anything that has to do with your prep, EDC, SHTF, dramatically. And I'm not trying to be hyperbolic when I say it's here. It's going to happen. What does that mean? I think that if you haven't already made the purchases that you need, you have to think about, do you really need them? Do you want to pump your brakes? China's targeting stuff for tariffs that can hurt farmers. It can help those that grow stuff like soybeans because they use that to feed their hogs over there. And so that diminishes the things that we do here in the States. There's a couple of other indicators that the confidence when it comes to people doing more prep stuff, the consumer confidence level took a shift that we were not expecting to happen. So last month, we had the largest dip in consumer confidence since August of 2021. What the heck is that? That means that individual families are polled by different organizations, and those families are polled on how much they intend to spend based on how the economy is doing. They call that consumer confidence. If you poll a family and they're saying, oh, we're about to go on vacation, or we're about to blow our load on some appliances, or we're about to do this. Once that starts to diminish, that means the consumer confidence has gone down. That means that even people are worried about the economy, We also have to look at what's called the PMI reading. The PMI reading is what companies do. So consumer confidence is what people do. The PMI reading is what companies do, specifically like manufacturing companies. What type of prep are they doing for the upcoming months, quarter, biannual, annual, or whatever? And their reading indicates that there's a slippage in preparation for manufacturing output. Not trying to be geeky or nerdy, but what that means is things that you were thinking about buying, not only could it be getting tariffs that are being made overseas, but even the stuff that's being made in the United States may have a lower quantity or lower availability as these companies prepare for the tariffs that are already enacted. So my advice when it comes to tariffs, I've already kind of said it a few times, I'm going to beat the dead horse, is I'm in a position now with my family where I teased and talked to you guys about buying another deep freezer. I've also wanted to get some more medical supplies. A lot of that stuff is made in the States, but I'm going to just kind of wait and see what do prices do that fluctuate. I recommend you download something like Camo. If you still use the Honey app, maybe you get something like that. Anything where you can install inside your internet browser a price tracker. Think about before you make the purchase, where's the prices going for the item that you need. A shipping container for a major prep might be a steal of a deal, or it might cost you a ton of money, even all the way down to your blackout kit. I used mine today in the DFW Metroplex. We lost power here in, I live specifically in the east part of the Dallas Metroplex, and we lost power for several hours. We were comfortable. Wi-Fi is still working because we're on fiber, a couple TVs still working, kids not getting on my nerves. But as I decide the things I noticed in my blackout kit that were kind of lacking, I want a couple more lanterns because my kids were getting on my nerves and they wanted to have their own individual ones and only had 4. I need 7. I want to get, and I like high quality lanterns. I wanted to get some more emergency candles because I didn't have quite enough. I was disappointed in the amount of butane torches I have. I have a lot for my cigars, but I'm talking about the ones with big flames, and my emergency radio only have 2. One's always in my truck, one's in my blackout kit. I wanted another one for Mrs. X to hold on to. Those small things, now I'm thinking about maybe I'll pump the brakes before I make those immediate purchases because the stuff is here now. So that's something that you got to think about. Next thing is, one thing that Russia and China grossly outnumbered us on is their offensive attacks when it came to cyber. Their cyber attacks just completely were smoking the United States. We just literally nerfed our own capabilities to conduct offensive cyber attacks on Russia. And for political reasons, I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about what you need to do personally, thinking about we are no longer trying to propel ourselves to be the top dog when it comes to doing cyber attacks. Cyber attacks are something that you do as a country if you want to be able to spy on someone's infrastructure, or be able to any time to shut something down that we see to be dangerous, to go after energy sources or whatever. You do that in an offensive nature. Russia's really good at it. But that also means they can target individuals, they can target companies, all of that. We literally just limited ourselves with the ability to do that. Me personally, that's why I'm glad I have my family protected with OR. Now, they have a number of things that you can use for OR. First off, you can register, make sure you have all your social security numbers in there so you can tell if your information is being used on the dark web, if you yourself possibly been a victim of a cyber attack. You can use their VPNs, which I'm using on my phone right now in all of my computers. You can put your kids inside of there. They also help you get rid of data brokers, which is super annoying. Once you register for OR, they go out, they see what type of companies already have your information. They contact those and request that you be removed from those lists. And they follow up beyond that as well. If I have this headache of worrying about cyber attacks, cyber issues, that type of stuff is not in my control. I told you guys before that I had all my information taken in 2014. At the time I was still active duty, and birthday, social security number, all that stuff gone to the wind by the Chinese, and the protections that the government gave me expired. That's why I'm super glad that I have OR. Shout out to OR for sponsoring today's video. Click the link down below. Start your trial with OR. That might be something interesting for you to protect yourself and your family. I love them, and I think you would like them as well. Cybersecurity, cyber offensive attacks are real. They're going to increase. The North Koreans have been doing it for a long time. I had no clue we were going to just literally handicap ourselves by limiting the amount of offensive cybersecurity attacks that we do. Now, we're still trying to do defensive cybersecurity attacks, but I think that you should try to protect yourself, protect your companies, and just protect your assets and goods when you think about what we could be possibly walking into. Don't get completely distracted by the tariffs. Don't get completely distracted by the politics. Don't get completely distracted by the measles outbreak, which we'll talk about here in a second. I think that you should actively think about that, because although we prep ourselves, we prep our families and our houses for SHTF when it comes to the physical, you should also be thinking about your digital footprint as well. The measles outbreak, that's one of those things you can't whoop with a Second Amendment. I love me some Second Amendment, but me versus the measles, I don't think that that's going to work. So listen, okay, the measles outbreak here in Texas has increased. We are now over 160 cases, and that is up just from Friday. Today being Tuesday, the measles outbreak is now in 9 different states. You even have Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the administrator of the HHS. He is advocating that you talk to your doctor about getting the MMR, measles, mumps, and rubella vaccination. And that's a serious thing. I think that me personally, I'm going to check my immunity level like I talked to you guys about before. Literally after recording this video, I'm taking my 16-year-old to get her immunity levels checked, because it's probably been near a decade. I think you get that shot when you're around the 18 to 20 months, or 6 to 18 months or something like that. And then you get a booster when you're like 4 years old. So it's been like 10 years for her. So I want to see where she is. I want to see where I am. I want to see where Mrs. X is. I'm thinking about that because I can't just be this gung-ho person that thinks everything's going to be fine when we have something such as measles, which is having one of the craziest outbreaks in decades here in the United States, across 9 different states. And I think it's one of those quiet monsters that's not getting that much attention because of everything else that's going on around us. Pay attention to it. I'm not telling you to get vaccinated. That's a decision you need to make with yourself and your doctors. What I am telling you is prep yourself a first aid kit. I just know that getting measles is not like getting chickenpox. Yes, I know you may get the rash, you may get a flu, sniffles, and you may get red eyes, but measles actually diminishes your immune system so that when other diseases come your way, other ailments come your way, the memory that your immune system has for some of those things may be deleted or depleted because of measles. I am not trying to put myself into that harm's way, or my family for that matter. And so I've decided that the best approach for me, making a med kit, trying to be vigilant, N95 masks, which are very plentiful right now because we're long past the days of the pandemic, but also the vaccinations as well. For all 5 of my kids is something that I absolutely think about. Tonight, President Trump will be addressing the nation. It's not a State of the Union. It's kind of like just a address in front of a joint session of Congress. And I know that can be an event. It could be exciting to watch any president talk in front of Congress, but really pay attention to events that could affect your daily life. I really advocate for that type of stuff, for prepping for it, not just letting it kind of creep up and slap you in the face. Because me personally, I don't want to get teabagged by measles. I am completely not interested in getting any type of crazy symptoms, crazy things happening to me because I didn't predict or didn't plan on my purchases when it came to tariffs, and especially my own footprint online. Comment down below, what SHTF event over the last 2 weeks did I miss? What do you see forecasting coming ahead? Stuff is here now. Bueller. If you get the reference, let me know. If this is your first time stopping by, hit the subscribe button. I would love to have you part of the battalion. If this is not your first time stopping by, well, thank you once again for watching me run my grape. For everyone else, we'll speak soon.